thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Zaji and today I want to talk to you a little bit about some sewing things. This is my very first make with Minerva, so I wanted to share a couple of the details about this project, and if that interests you, then I encourage you to subscribe and continue watching. So I've realized that I really don't have any tops, and it's coming up to fall time, and there's only so much layering that you can do with a dress, especially one that's fitted. So I decided that I should probably start adding some tops into my wardrobe. And I really didn't know what I was going to pick because I had originally intended for this to be a shirt dress, but I decided against it just because I have a million dresses at this point, or really close to it. So I picked a pattern that I looked for months because I was really intrigued by the sleeve options. And I'm talking about Simplicity 8644, which is the pattern that I'm wearing. I'll put a picture of the pattern on the screen so that you can kind of see what the other options are. But most people, I think, know about this pattern because of option A, which I do really want to make now that I've made option B. But it was absolutely a dream to put this pattern together. I changed a few of the details with it, so I will talk about that in just a second. But first I want to talk to you about the fabric. So this fabric was gifted to me from Minerva to make something in exchange for a blog post talking about the fabric. And so I did already write that, so I will link that down below once it goes live so that you're able to check it out and see more photos. So I also wanted to make a video just so you can kind of see how it looks in this darling top. So I made version B. This fabric is a poplin fabric, so it makes this version B look a little more cool than I think it would look if you had something in a more slinky fabric, so like a crepe or a rayon or something. I don't think the sleeve detail would be as interesting, but I love it in the poplin because it gives it such a poof and makes them more statement sleeves than I think you would be able to achieve with something a little more slinky. So this is the woodland print cotton poplin. So you can make dresses from this fabric, but I think it is such a beautiful fabric for tops and shirts. So I think you can make like proper shirts, like collared shirts and things like that with this kind of fabric as well. So this particular one has cute little squirrels and deer and bunnies and mushrooms, and I felt like it could also be a spring fabric, and Brian, my husband, also said that too, but I think it's kind of fall-ish just because it's got these mushrooms on there. Not just the mushrooms, but just with it going with everything else, I think it looks really nice in fall. It's a kind of light gray color, so it's not really a white shade, and I think that kind of adds a little bit more intrigue to it. And I really had such an easy time working with this fabric. Poplin is really similar to quilted cotton. There's a few things that are different. I just think this is definitely more suitable for garments than quilting cotton because it is more structured, and it does press out still with the same amount of ease. I didn't have any issues with that as far as that goes. It's a lot of that. But it does kind of hold its shape a little bit more. I think instead of like crinkling up and getting all wrinkled, I think this just has a little bit more structure to it. It just sits a little bit better. The gathers and everything kind of pressed into the waistband and everything really smoothly, and I don't have any like extra poofiness where I don't want it, and I love that. So making this pattern was very simple. I think that it's labeled as an easy pattern. I don't know if Simplicity actually labels it as easy or not. I don't know where I would see that. I feel like I saw somewhere that this pattern was labeled as easy, and I definitely think it reflects that. If this is maybe your second or third thing or garment that you've made, I feel like you'd be able to have a pretty easy time making it. So the only things that I changed about making this pattern was the fact that I used my serger to finish all of the seams, which it doesn't tell you to do. I know you can use whatever kind of finish you like to. You can pink or use a French seam or something like that, but I make a lot of knit garments and I'm pretty comfortable using my sergers, so I went ahead and used that to finish all of the seams and raw edges of this garment. I didn't finish anything in the waistband just because it is fully enclosed, which I loved about this pattern because it adds just a little bit more structure and weight at the center, so you get a really nice looking top. I love enclosed waistbands. For me, how I finish enclosed waistbands is just to top stitch the entire seam allowance, so all around the edge of the waistband, and it makes it so much easier to iron the garment in the future, but it also to me looks a little bit more polished. I know that, you know, some people prefer to do hand stitching and like the way that that looks. I hate hand stitching, so I don't love how that looks because I don't want to do it to look like that. So for me, top stitching is how I typically finish enclosed waistbands, because you don't have to do a lot of fussing when it comes to ironing this garment after it's been washed. And I love that that aspect. It makes it just a little bit easier to wear things in the future, in my opinion. And then I didn't make any adjustments at all for my height. I could have stood to maybe lengthen the sleeves, but I think that because it is a more bold sleeve, it doesn't need to fit really anywhere because it's going to look nice at whatever length. But if I were to make version B again, I probably would lengthen these just so I could get the full effect of the sleeve being a full length. I think in fall it'll be great because, you know, it's not too cold. If I put something over top, it'll be fine. But in the winter time, if I were to wear this top, I would probably be a little bit chilled because I'm naturally a really cold person. I'm always cold. I'm always in a cardigan. I'm always freezing. So today I'm wearing it with an undershirt. In the photos, you'll see I'm not wearing an undershirt because it was a little bit warmer that day, but it is cooler today, I think in the 60s. Trying to think if there's anything else I did with this top that I want to tell you about. Oh, I used my narrow hem foot, which is something that I really have fallen in love with this year because I've been making a lot of garments that have a lot of gathering. And one thing that I dislike about working with something like that that's gathered is they usually have a narrow hem. And so if it's gathered, it's obviously a larger piece that you're making smaller at, you know, a specific point. So that hemline is pretty dang long, and this top's hemline was also pretty long. So using my narrow hem foot cut down my time by who knows how much, but it was such a lifesaver. And because this fabric is pretty thin, I didn't even have to worry about like doing the like seam allowances where the front and back panels meet for the peplum skirt part of this top. I didn't even have to worry about pulling that out of my narrow hem foot. I could literally just run it straight through as well. So it was such a dream to use that foot. It saved me so much time. And I really do love how the narrow hem foot works. It is magical, and I am so happy that I have it. I have them in a couple of different sizes too, so I've been trying to use them as much as I can. But yeah, this is my fall top. I'm excited to add this to my wardrobe. If you have thought about making this top or are considering making this top or making it right now, please let me know down below what fabrics you use to make it and how you're liking how they work with the pattern. I am interested to see what this would look like in maybe flannel ? For a warmer top, and maybe even doing it in poplin again and trying to do that really awesome version A sleeve, which is the reason why I got this pattern in the first place. But oh yeah, I didn't even talk about sizing. Oh my god. So for sizing for this top, I used size 10, and the pattern recommends that I would be using size 14, which would just be way too big for my personal preference. I only like about 2 inches of wearing ease in my garments. So the size 10, using the finished measurements, I was able to see that that was going to be the best size for me. So that's something to keep in mind if you're making this top. You definitely want to check the finished measurements and see how you want this top to fit you, and then make your decision on the sizing from that finished measurement instead of what's on the packet, because this would have been a humongous top if I would have went with a 14. So I did want to point that out before I left. But without further ado, I'm gonna love you and leave you right here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.